Alright guys, Gary back again. I got my Conquest magazines through this week. In particular, number 54 caught my eye, and that's because it came with a model of Typhus, Herald of Nurgle. And I love painting the Death Guard. For some reason I like painting the bad guys. But after looking at the back of the painting guide, where it shows you how the model should look if you follow the guide, follow the guide with all the paints that this magazine's given you so far, so it should look like that. I just looked at that picture and I thought, I reckon I can do a little bit better than that. And then I thought, I wonder if I could do this with contrast, and mainly contrast. So that's the point of this video. I have recorded this intro twice, once a couple of days ago when I started the model, and then I looked back at the footage and it was bloody awful. So I'm doing this again. The model is finished, it's right in front of me, but I figure I would leave that to the end of the video, or if you've seen the thumbnail you know how it came out. I have used mainly contrast. In fact, I've got all the paints underneath here. I only used about 5 non-contrast paints. So let's see how I did. Back in a sec. I decided to undercoat this one with Wraithbone, which is the contrast undercoat paint, and then went over the armour panels with Creed Camo. So front and back, Creed Camo. So I like the shade of green. Bit dirty, but not too dirty, if that makes any sense. And then using Blood Angel's Red, I did the eye plates and then the various bits of cloth around the body. Of course, one day I will remember to actually keep the model perfectly in the middle of the screen, but as I like to get close, it's gonna take a while. Once the red was finished with, I started going over all the bare metal with lead belcher, so that's the horn on his head, and the various edges of his armour. Any piping, but basically exposed metal was done with lead belcher. So, he's coming along quite nicely at this point. Exposed armour, chainmail, all lead belcher. Moving on, I decided to do the cloud of flies coming out of his back with Griff Charger Grey. If I was to do this again, I would probably not glue the flies on there, because it may get into the back of his armour quite difficult. But lesson learnt. And I also did his helmet with Space Wars Grey because I like the slight difference. The leather wraps on the scythe were done with Gore Grunter fur, which I think came out quite nicely. And then I moved on to the little Nurgling on his side, and I started off with Plaguebearer flesh, but wasn't too happy with how it came out. So while it was drying, I went back over it again with Magos Purple, which, if I ever remember to actually put the miniature in the middle of the camera right now, I think came out quite nicely. So that sort of rotten flesh appearance. Well, to me anyway. And then I moved on to Vulpus Pink and did some of the wings and on the flies on his back. I figured that some of them would be coming through the smoke, so not all of the details on the flies would needed to have been done. And then I got some Retributor armour and started going over a couple of the smaller bits on his armour. So mainly the centrepiece on his chest and the bell on his, I don't know, artefacts hanging down there. And then moved up to paint the emerald on his shoulder right there. I was determined I wasn't going to use too many non-contrast paints, so I went to Black Templar and used that as a sort of wash over the lead belcher sections. Sort of dirtied them up a little bit, and I'll be honest, I like the look of contrast over lead belcher. Can get some nice effects. Then I went over the various horns and spiky bits poking out of him with Skeleton Horde, which is my go-to for bone, which is good because that's pretty much what it's made for. And then I went over the tongue of the little Nurgling with Vulpus Pink again, because I kind of forgot to do that when I was doing it earlier. I also went over a couple of the exposed, I don't know, sores, pustules sort of sticking through Typhus's armour. I went over that with Vulpus earlier, but wasn't too happy with how that came out. I think it needed darkening up a bit. And then moving back to the scythe, I used wildwood for the wooden bits, as the name suggests. And then got my lead belcher and started doing the actual metal bits on the scythe itself. Yeah, not quite sure what I was thinking. I could have just done all lead belcher in one go, but I was so determined to get the get the body looking right, I just sort of focused on that. And then there's some little pipes sticking out the woods down below. I've also just realised I actually painted that little bit of ruin with Black Templar as well. I said earlier I like the effect of the contrasts over lead belcher, and I started doing Nazdreg yellow over various parts of the scythe, which comes out a really nice golden colour. And I'm pretty happy with it. I like it. It's a nice little goldy colour there. I like it. And then, yep, this is me trying to get the eyes done with Black Templar on a Nurgling, and then moving on to the exposed bits in the cables, which I did actually colour with Guilliman's Flesh, but the footage was not fantastic. And then I got a bit of glue and based it with some dirt from Serious Play. While that was drying, I grabbed my Typhus Corrosion and just went over the edge of the scythe and a couple of bits of the exposed metal. Exposed metal, piping, some bits on the edge of the armour. Didn't want to go overboard. I'm very much a fan of less is more when it comes to detail. That, and I might be a little bit lazy. Once the mud had dried, I grabbed some of the Serious Play Muddy Dead Grass. I just love that name. And a bit more PVA glue. Splattered about a bit. Tried to keep the camera in focus. And then I just dunked him in the grass. And I, again, think it came out looking quite nicely. While the grass was drying, I decided I'd tidy up the base of him a little bit, so I used Steel Legion Drab. It's a fairly neutral colour. And then grabbed my Razer Rust, and then dry brushed over everywhere that I put the Typhus Corrosion, because I like how that comes out, and it definitely, to me, looks quite rusty, which is helpful. So all the piping, edges, I'm really happy with how the horn came out. And then as a last couple of details, I grabbed some Nurgle's Rot and applied it to the base, sort of, well, very randomly to be fair. So to the base and then onto his scythe itself, and that's an absolutely disgusting brush I picked up to use for this, but it's okay. And there it is. It's Typhus, the Herald of Nurgle. I say this a lot, but I genuinely am really happy with how this came out. I mean, I can see a couple of small details that I missed, but to me that adds to it. I'm really happy with how the rust effect comes out on the scythe, and just, yeah, it's probably one of the best miniatures I've painted recently. Well, that's in my opinion anyway. What did you guys think of this? Did you enjoy watching it? Do you think contrast works quite well with this model? Is there anything you would have done differently? Is there anything you wouldn't have done differently? Let me know down below. I do like getting comments, and it does help let me know that people are actually watching these. In any case, if you do like the video, leave a like, comment, share it with your friends, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. But after this, I'm going to take a little break for a couple of days, because this was absolutely shattering. In any case, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. So until then, I was Gary, aka Hopeless. See ya. Bye!